The wind over Eastbrook was restless that night. It pulled at curtains, howled through cracked windows, and danced around the broken street lamps like a child too wild to sleep. Amara sat cross-legged on the roof of the old duplex she and her mother rented. Her notebook lay open on her lap, its pages rippling with every gust. In her hands was a red balloon, half filled and tied to a piece of frayed twine. She bit her lip, glancing at the horizon. Clouds in every direction, but no rain yet. The words had already been written. Dear Dad, it's been 1,071 days since I started writing to you. I'm 14 now. I still don't know what your voice sounds like, or if you liked music, or if your nose looks like mine. But I still hope. Tonight might be my last letter. Mom says we're moving again, maybe too far to keep doing this. So if you're really out there, please, please send something back. Love, Amara. She folded the paper carefully, creased the corners, smoothed the edges. She had tried different types of paper before, some too heavy, others too light. This one was from her mother's old printer, the kind with barely visible ink stains. It would have to do. Amara tucked the letter into the balloon, pressing it inside with a pencil tip until it disappeared. Then she tied the knot, double-looped, just like always. Her fingers trembled. Maybe from the cold, maybe not. Below her, the neighborhood slept, or at least pretended to. The street light flickered like it had for years. The Hendersons' dog barked once, then fell silent. Somewhere, a train wailed in the distance, lonely, distant, hollow. She took a deep breath. This is it, she whispered to the balloon. Fly good this time. She let go. The balloon rose unsteadily at first, caught in the downdraft near the gutters. Then a stronger current took it, lifting it higher, past the power lines, beyond the rooftops, into the navy blue nothingness. Amara watched until it disappeared. And then she stayed, still and quiet, until her legs went numb and the notebook in her lap fluttered like a dying bird. She didn't cry. Not this time. When she finally climbed back into her room, through the squeaky attic window, her mother was asleep. The living room light still on, the TV muttering static into the silence. An empty glass on the table, beside 2 unopened bills and a photo of them both, at the beach, back when they smiled more. Amara crawled into bed and pulled the blanket up to her chin. That was the last balloon she had. The next morning, rain fell. She woke late. The sky was colorless, the air smelled of rust and wet leaves. Her mother had already left for the diner, where she worked the early shift. A sticky note waited on the fridge. Back by 4. Check the mail if you go out. Mom. Amara wasn't planning to, but when noon came and the rain eased into a mist, something tugged at her. Maybe out of habit, maybe hope. The mailbox was mostly junk. Coupons, a pre-approval letter for someone named Mr. Tomas Randall, a folded flyer from the local church. She was about to close it when something white and thick slipped forward, catching her eye. No stamp, no return address, just her name, Amara, written in large, uneven cursive, the A looped too wide, the R pressed deep into the paper like someone had written with a shaking hand. She stared for a long time before picking it up. Inside was a single sheet of paper, folded once. I heard you. I never stopped listening. I'm sorry. Her legs gave out, right there on the curb. That night, she didn't sleep. The note lay on her desk, smoothed flat and pinned with a stone. She'd read it 30 times. Checked the handwriting against the old photo of her father her mother kept in a locked drawer, which Amara had picked open years ago. She remembered the way he curved his letters, how his signature dipped sharply at the end. This was his writing. But that couldn't be. Her mother had said he left when Amara was a baby, that he was gone and not coming back, that letters to the sky were for healing, not expecting answers. Amara's hands trembled. Her mind spun. She grabbed her notebook. Dear Dad, you wrote back. I don't understand how. I don't even know if this is real. But I got your note. I saw your handwriting. I think it's you. Are you alive? Where are you? Why did you leave? Please write again. Please tell me something real." But there were no balloons left. She sat at the desk, staring at the window, then down at the note again. The words burned now. I never stopped listening. If that was true, maybe she didn't need a balloon anymore. Amara opened the window, leaned out slightly, and whispered into the wind, "Please, please answer me again." And somewhere, between the rustling trees and the sighing rooftops, she thought she heard something, soft, distant, like paper moving against paper. Amara didn't tell her mother about the letter. She kept it hidden beneath the loose floorboard under her bed, along with all her old notes, clippings, and the small box that held every photo she'd ever seen of her father. There weren't many. A wedding picture where he barely smiled, a blurry snapshot of him holding a baby, her, maybe, and one Polaroid she didn't remember ever receiving with a date scribbled on the back, June 7th, 2010. The handwriting matched the note from the mailbox. All day at school, Amara couldn't concentrate. The words on the blackboard swam. Miss Delaney called on her 3 times and got nothing but silence in return. At lunch, she sat alone beneath the cracked basketball hoop and reread the note she had copied into her notebook, tracing each letter again and again like they might shift and change meaning if she stared long enough. "I heard you. I never stopped listening. I'm sorry." The last part echoed louder than the rest. What was he sorry for? Leaving? Not writing sooner? Was he even still alive? She couldn't ask her mom. That was off limits. Once, in 5th grade, Amara had pushed too hard. Asked about her dad at dinner. Her mom's hands went stiff, her voice flat. "He's not part of this family anymore, baby. That's all you need to know." Then she cleared the plates and washed dishes for an hour, even though they'd only used 2. Since then, Amara had learned to ask the wind instead. Now, someone, or something, had answered. After school, she skipped the cracked sidewalk that led home and instead took the long way through the park. She stopped by the old oak tree near the corner where the summer carnival used to set up. That's where she used to launch balloons when she was younger. She looked up at the empty sky, half hoping to see one drifting back down. Nothing. She wandered further, stopping at a payphone near the laundromat. The receiver was broken. It dangled from its cord like a dead limb. Still, she picked it up and whispered into it. "Are you listening?" A car honked in the distance. A kid shouted. A flock of birds lifted off the wires above her like a single breath. When she got home, the mail was already in. Nothing handwritten this time. Just bills and a takeout menu stuffed in with a coupon for carpet cleaning. Her mother was late, again. Amara reheated some leftovers, stared at the steam curling from the plastic bowl, and waited. At 6:30, the front door opened. "Sorry, baby, got held up," her mother said, kicking off her soaked sneakers. Her apron was wrinkled and smelled like fryer oil and bleach. "Eat something?" "Already did," Amara mumbled. Her mom kissed her forehead and shuffled into the back room to change. Amara watched her go. The woman's shoulders looked smaller lately, worn down, tired. She wanted to ask again, wanted to bring up the letter, shove it in her mother's hands and demand the truth. But something inside stopped her. Instead, she waited until her mother fell asleep on the couch, snoring softly with the TV still on. Then she crept into the hallway closet and pulled out the box of family stuff, photo albums, tax papers, an old video camera that didn't work anymore. She dug through until she found the thing she barely remembered noticing before, a stack of envelopes, all unopened, rubber-banded together and shoved in the back under a tangle of Christmas lights. Each envelope was addressed to Marlene H. James, her mother, and each return address said E.B. James, and each one was postmarked from different cities across the country. Her father. Amara's hands shook as she peeled one open. The letter inside was dated nearly 12 years ago, long before she could read. The handwriting was the same, messy, rushed, but unmistakable. "I know you're angry. I know I wasn't what you needed. But I want to be there, Even just a little, even just through these letters. She opened another. Tell Amara I said happy birthday. I sent a book, The Wind and the Willows. It was my favorite when I was little. Maybe she'll like it too. Amara's throat tightened. She opened a third. If you never want to speak to me again, I'll understand. But please don't throw these away. Maybe one day she'll want to read them. They were all still there. Not thrown away. Just hidden. Carefully. Silently. By the person who'd always told her he walked away. Amara gathered the letters and placed them in a neat stack in her room. Then she added the newest one, the one addressed only to her, to the top. Later that night, while the neighborhood slept and the wind began to stir again, Amara lit a candle by her window. She didn't know why. Maybe because it felt like the right thing. Like something someone would do if they were waiting for something, or someone. She wrote again. Dear Dad, I found your old letters. Mom never told me you kept writing. I want to know everything. Why you left, why she kept them from me. Please don't stop. I'm listening now too. She placed the letter on her windowsill. No balloon this time, just the wind. The candle on Amara's windowsill had burned out by dawn, leaving behind a pool of wax and a scorched wick that curled like a question mark. She hadn't slept. Her eyes burned from reading and rereading her father's letters, now laid out across her bed in chronological order. A quiet timeline of a man she had never known, but who had never truly left. Each envelope, each date told a story. Birthday wishes, missed holidays, apologies. But more than that, they whispered something deeper, something her mother had worked hard to erase. He had tried. And she had stopped him. Amara watched the sky brighten through the window, pale blue, cloudless, silent. She glanced at her phone, 6:12 a.m., school in 2 hours. She moved like someone underwater, her legs heavy, her hands clumsy, as she dressed and packed the letters into her backpack. Every part of her felt too full and too fragile, like a glass pressed to the edge of a shelf. Her mother was still asleep on the couch, one arm over her eyes. The same news channel murmured softly on the TV. Amara stood there for a moment, watching her, studying her, looking for cracks. Nothing. At school, the day passed in a haze. Her friends barely noticed her silence. They were too absorbed in their own orbit of gossip and digital distractions. The only moment that broke through came during English class, when Mr. Portwell handed out copies of The Tempest and read a line aloud. Hell is empty, and all the devils are here. Something about it caught Amara in the chest. A storm, a hidden truth, a girl looking for a father lost in the waves. That afternoon, she didn't go home. Instead, she walked. No plan, no destination, just the steady thud of her footsteps and the weight of her backpack pulling her backward, as if the letters themselves didn't want to be carried any further. She found herself in front of the library, the old brick one with the cracked fountain and the creaky front doors. She went inside. The woman at the desk smiled faintly. Research sections to your left. Amara nodded but turned right. She sat in the back corner where no one ever went, pulled out the letters, spread them again, but this time she wasn't reading. She was looking for something, anything, between the lines. And then, in the third letter, she saw it. I found a job in Meridian. Not much, but steady. There's a piano at the place I'm staying. You'd love it. I still remember the way your fingers danced on the keys when you were pregnant with her. Meridian. She'd never heard that city mentioned in her house, ever. Amara pulled out her phone and searched it. A small town 3 hours north. Population barely 10,000. Mostly farms and old storefronts. She searched Meridian plus piano. One hit. Beaumont Inn. A photo of a red brick building with ivy on the windows. Beneath it, live music on weekends. Ask about the piano room. Her heartbeat quickened. Could it be? She copied the number into her phone and froze. Her thumb hovered over the call button, but instead she slid the phone into her pocket. Not yet. Not without answers from the person who owed them to her first.
That evening, her mother came home earlier than usual. She looked tired but lighter, humming softly as she kicked off her shoes. Amara waited until after dinner, until the dishes were done, until the quiet between them felt soft enough not to shatter. Then she stood in the doorway, holding the letters. "Mama," she said, "why did you hide these?" Her mother turned. The hum died. "What are those?" "You know what they are." Amara's voice was steady now. "You kept them, you didn't throw them away. So why didn't you tell me?" Her mother looked at the letters as if they were ghosts. "I was going to," she whispered. "Someday, when you were older, when I thought you could understand." "I'm 14, Amara said. "I can understand." Her mother sat down slowly on the edge of the couch. Her hands trembled. "I thought I was protecting you." "From what?" "From disappointment," she said. "From thinking he was something he's not." Amara walked closer. "He wrote every year, every birthday." "And he laughed." Her mother's voice sharpened. "He walked out on us when you were 2 months old. Said he needed to figure himself out. And I waited. I waited until the rent went unpaid and the calls stopped and the baby food ran out." Amara's throat clenched. "But he tried. The letters." "Words are easy, Amara. But he never showed up. Not once. Not for a holiday. Not when you had that fever at 2 years old. Not when you needed someone to play catch or fix your bike or—" Her voice cracked. "He was gone." The silence sat heavy between them. Then Amara stepped forward and handed her the last letter, the one that had come in the mail just 2 days ago. Her mother stared. "No stamp," she whispered. "No address." "He's close," Amara said. "He's not gone. He's listening." Her mother shook her head. "People like that, they always come back when they think it's safe, when they feel guilty, when the hard part's already done." "Or maybe," Amara said, her voice soft, "he came back because he finally believed someone wanted him to." Her mother looked at her then, really looked. "I didn't keep the letters to hurt you," she said. "I kept them because I thought that pain should die with me, not pass to you." Amara nodded slowly. "I want to know him," she said. Her mother hesitated, then reached for one of the envelopes. Her fingers traced the name, her eyes glassy. "There's more," she whispered. "More than just letters." Amara waited. Her mother stood, walked to the hallway closet, and pulled down a small tin box she hadn't touched in years. Inside, a photograph, a cassette tape, a train ticket stub, and a folded piece of paper that said, in his writing, "If you ever want to find me, follow the music."
The tin box sat between them like a portal, one that hummed with the weight of forgotten years. Amara stared at the objects inside, the photograph of a man with eyes just like hers, the cassette labeled "For Her," the yellowing train ticket to Meridian, and the note that had changed everything. "If you ever want to find me, follow the music." Her mother sat back, arms crossed as if hugging herself. "He left that the day he disappeared," she said. "Left it on the kitchen table. I found it when I came home from my shift. No goodbye, no explanation, just that." Amara reached for the cassette. "What's on it?" "I don't know," her mother admitted. "I never had the heart to listen." Amara turned it over. The handwriting was unmistakable, strong, angular, familiar. There was a small music note doodled next to the word "her." She looked up. "Do we have anything that plays this?" Her mother shook her head. "Not anymore. Maybe the library?" Amara tucked the tape back into the tin. "Then that's where I'm going tomorrow." Her mother looked uneasy. "You're not skipping school for this." Amara raised an eyebrow. "Mom, I just found out my dad might be 3 hours away and actually wants to be found." Silence. Her mother rubbed her eyes. "I can't stop you, but please, don't go alone." Amara didn't answer. The next day, she brought the tin box to school, hidden deep in her backpack. The cassette felt heavier than everything else she carried, like it knew the truth it contained. After lunch, she snuck out the back entrance and caught the bus to the library. Miss Keener, the elderly librarian, gave her a sideways look when she approached the front desk with the tape. "Haven't seen one of these in years," she said, squinting at the label. "Give me a minute." She disappeared into the back room and returned with a dusty cassette player the size of a loaf of bread. "Still works, barely. Be gentle." Amara took it to her usual corner, plugged in the headphones, slid the tape in, pressed play. A soft hiss. Then a note, a piano note, warm, deliberate. Then another. A slow melody began to unfold. Not perfect, some hesitations, a missed chord, but it was real, human. After a moment, a voice spoke over the music. Deep, familiar. "Amara, I don't know if you'll ever hear this, but if you do, I want you to know that I tried." The piano continued beneath his voice, soft and aching. "I wasn't strong. I ran from things I should have faced. I let fear dress itself as freedom. But the moment you were born, I felt something change. You made me want to stay, and that scared me more than leaving." Amara closed her eyes. Tears slid silently down her cheeks. "This melody, it's yours. I wrote it for you before I left. Every note is a wish I couldn't say out loud." The tape crackled. The piano faded. Then, silence. She rewound it and listened again. And again. That evening, Amara sat across from her mother at the kitchen table. The cassette lay between them. "He wrote music," Amara said. "For me." Her mother didn't reply. "I'm going to Meridian." Her mother finally looked up. "Amara, I need to know. I need to know if he's still there, or if any of it was real." Her mother took a long breath. "Then I'm coming with you." Amara blinked. "What?" Her mother's voice was firm. "If we're opening this door, we open it together. You deserve the truth, but I deserve closure." They locked eyes for a long moment. Then Amara nodded. 3 days later, they boarded a Greyhound bus as the sun peeked over the horizon. The sky was pink and orange, like a promise. Amara leaned her head against the window, the tin box in her lap. Meridian was 3 hours away, and somewhere inside it, perhaps, was a man who had written music for a daughter he'd never seen grow up. As the engine rumbled to life, Amara whispered, mostly to herself, "I'm following the music." And for the first time, her mother didn't flinch at his name. Meridian smelled like wood smoke and old rain. The kind of small town where time moved slower, where everyone seemed to know each other's secrets but pretended not to. The bus hissed to a stop on Main Street. Amara and her mother stepped out. The tin box zipped inside Amara's backpack, the cassette tape now wrapped in her hoodie like something sacred. Across the street stood the Beaumont Inn. It wasn't grand. The ivy in the online photo had grown thicker, climbing across the faded red bricks like veins. A swinging sign creaked overhead, swaying in the breeze. Live music Saturdays. Below it, carved in old wood, Est 1928. Amara stared up at the windows. "That's it," she whispered. Her mother adjusted her coat. "Let's get a room first." Inside, the inn smelled of lemon polish and old books. The woman behind the front desk looked up and smiled, vaguely curious. "Welcome to the Beaumont. Checking in?" Amara's mother nodded. "1 night, maybe 2. The woman slid over a form. "You're in luck. We have a corner room, faces the old church." As they walked upstairs, Amara asked, "Does this place really have a piano room?" The receptionist's eyes lit up. "Sure does. Grand old Baldwin in the back lounge. Been here longer than most of us. Folks come play sometimes, but it mostly stays quiet unless it's Saturday." "Can I see it?" Amara asked. "Of course, hun. Just past the fireplace room, through the blue door." The piano room was dimly lit, the curtains drawn. Dust floated in beams of light from a stained glass window above. And there it was. A black Baldwin Baby Grand. Elegant, a little scratched, but proud. Amara stepped toward it as if approaching an altar. Her fingers hovered above the keys. The silence between each note in the cassette echoed in her mind. She pressed a key. A soft G note trembled in the air. Her mother stood by the door, arms folded. Amara turned to her. He said in the letter that this was where he played. Her mother's eyes darkened. Then we wait. They stayed for hours. Evening fell. Rain brushed the windows like a whisper. Then, around 7:30, the door creaked open. A man entered. Tall, worn jeans, a coat that had seen too many winters, a slight limp. His beard was graying at the edges, and he carried a thermos and a worn music book. He stopped when he saw them. Amara's breath caught. His eyes. They were the same, exactly the same as hers. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. Then he stepped back, as if unsure he should stay. Amara stood. "Are you—" her voice cracked. "Are you James?" Silence. He looked at her mother, then at Amara. "Yes," he said finally. Her mother moved slightly in front of Amara, protective instinct flickering. "Why now?" He met her gaze. "Because I was a coward, and I've been running from this moment for 14 years. Amara's voice was quiet but steady. "Did you really write the music on the tape?" He nodded slowly. "Every note." She pulled the cassette from her pocket. "I listened to it, over and over." His voice softened. "You heard me." "I did." He looked at the Baldwin. "May I?" Amara stepped aside. He sat, opened the book, and began to play. It wasn't perfect. His fingers trembled at first, but the melody came back, slowly, just like on the tape. Only this time, it wasn't trapped in plastic. It filled the room. It breathed. Amara sat beside him, watched his hands. And then, without thinking, she placed her fingers beside him. They played together, tentative at first, then stronger. Her mother watched, eyes shimmering but dry. When the piece ended, there was a long silence. Then Amara turned to him. "Why didn't you ever come see me?" He looked down at his hands. "Because I didn't think I deserved to." "But you wrote," she whispered. "I couldn't stay away entirely. I just couldn't stay." Her voice wavered. "I wanted to hate you. I would have understood. But I don't. Not right now." He looked up, his voice barely audible. "Do you think maybe I could try again?" Amara didn't answer right away. But then she reached into her backpack, took out the tin box, and placed it between them. "Let's start here," she said. The next morning, the piano room was quiet again, just as they had left it. Amara stood by the window, watching early light filter through stained glass, painting the floor in broken hues of blue and gold. Her thoughts moved slowly, like the dust dancing in the sunbeams. She hadn't slept much. Neither had her mother. And James? No one knew if he had stayed in town or vanished again. Amara hoped, desperately, that he hadn't run. She clutched the music book he had left behind. Its pages were yellowed, filled with handwritten scores and margin notes, messy, emotional, alive. Some pages were dated. Others had names written at the top. For A. Rain, Thursday morning. When silence hurts. Amara's fingers brushed one page in particular. The melody was familiar, almost identical to the one on the tape. But halfway through, the notation stopped. A single word was scribbled in the margin. Unfinished. She stared at it for a long time. James returned just before noon. He looked tired, like he hadn't slept either. But he held 2 paper cups of coffee and a small bag of pastries. "I wasn't sure if you'd still be here," he said, cautiously hopeful. Amara took the coffee. "We're still here." He handed the second cup to her mother. "You like cinnamon still?" Her mother hesitated, then accepted the drink without a word. They sat. The silence stretched like a tightrope between them, delicate and dangerous. James finally broke it. "I never stopped thinking about her, about both of you." Her mother's voice was low. "Thinking doesn't raise a child." "I know." Amara opened the music book to the unfinished piece. "Why didn't you finish this?" James leaned forward, as if seeing the page for the first time in years. "I couldn't. Not after I left." "Then why write it at all?" He looked at her. "Because I needed to hold on to something, even if it hurt." Her voice trembled. "It hurt me too." "I know," he said again, softer. The three of them sat in the stillness of the room, surrounded by music that hadn't been played in years. Then James said, "What do you want to know?" Amara looked up. "Everything." He told them. About how music school had overwhelmed him, about how he met Amara's mother during a summer gig in Chicago, fell in love too fast, got scared too soon. About the panic attack he had when he first held Amara. "I looked down at you," he said, "and I just froze. I didn't think I could protect anything, let alone a daughter." "So you ran," her mother said. James didn't defend himself. "I did." He explained how he ended up in Meridian, how he played piano at the end to pay rent, how he tried to write letters but never mailed them. "This place was quiet," he said, "too quiet, but I needed it." "And the tape?" Amara asked. He smiled faintly. "I made it a year after I left, recorded it here, at night when no one was around. I thought maybe someday you'd hear it." "I did." A long pause. Then Amara pulled the music book toward her. "I want to finish the piece." James blinked. "You play?" "Not well," she admitted, "but I want to learn. With you." His throat tightened. "I would like that." Her mother stood suddenly. "I need some air." She walked out, leaving father and daughter alone. They began slowly. James showed her the key of G major, let her find each note with unsure fingers. When she hit a wrong one, he didn't correct her, just nodded for her to try again. They laughed, sometimes, fell into silence, often, but they kept playing. Each day, they added a few more bars to the unfinished song. That night, Amara sat outside the inn, under a flickering porch light. Her mother joined her, arms wrapped around herself. "Are you angry?" Amara asked. Her mother looked up at the stars. "I've been angry for 14 years. But watching you two today, maybe I'm tired of being angry." Amara leaned her head on her mother's shoulder. "I think he's sorry," she whispered. "I think he is too." A pause. "Do you think we can forgive him?" Amara asked. Her mother was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Maybe not all at once, but note by note." They sat together in silence, under a sky filled with forgotten songs. By the fourth day in Meridian, the inn felt different, familiar, almost. The cracked tile in the hallway, the creaky stairs, the way the piano bench groaned under James's weight, all of it had started to settle around Amara like the rhythm of a new song. Each morning, they played. Each night, her mother walked the empty streets alone. The unfinished piece now had 2 full pages of new notation. They argued over crescendos, laughed over mismatched chords, and sometimes, when the mood shifted, fell into silence so heavy it pressed on their skin like humidity. On Wednesday afternoon, James brought out a cardboard box. "Found this in the attic room," he said. "Used to store some old things here." He opened the flaps. Inside, sheet music, worn photographs, and a stack of old letters tied with green ribbon. Amara pulled one photo from the pile. A younger James sitting at a piano in some bar. The neon sign above him said Louie's Place. A woman, dark lipstick, wild curls, rested her hand on his shoulder. "Who's that?" Amara asked. James hesitated. "Someone I used to play with, before Chicago, before everything." He didn't elaborate. Her mother looked over, but said nothing. That night, Amara stayed up past midnight. The piano room was locked, so she wandered the halls with her earbuds in, listening to the cassette again, looking for something new in a melody she now knew by heart. But this time, something was different. Halfway through, after a pause in the music, a faint click, then the sound of paper rustling. Then a voice, quiet, breathless, barely above a whisper. "I never wanted to leave," it said, "but I wasn't strong enough. If you ever hear this, I hope the sky forgives me." Then the music returned. She pulled out the earbuds. Her heart was racing. She rewound the tape, played it again. It was real. The next morning, Amara confronted James. "You recorded a message on the tape." He looked confused. "What message?" "Near the middle, you said, 'I wasn't strong enough.'" James went pale. He leaned back in his chair. "I forgot about that." "You didn't send the tape on purpose, did you?" "No." He stared at the table. "I left it at Louie's. Thought I'd never see it again." "So who sent it to me?" she asked. He didn't answer. Her mother spoke for the first time in a while. "Maybe someone wanted you to find your way here." James opened the music book again, then froze. "What?" Amara asked. He flipped the pages rapidly. "Page 3, it's gone." They all leaned in. The third page of the piece, the one they'd started drafting together, had been torn clean out. James stood. "I didn't remove it." Amara's chest tightened. Maybe it fell out? They searched. But it wasn't under the piano, or between the cushions, or in the box from the attic. It was gone. Stolen. That evening, Amara walked alone to Louie's place. It was still there. Same sign, same neon, same smell of whiskey and dust. She pushed open the door. Inside, it was mostly empty, just a man polishing glasses and a jukebox humming softly in the corner. She approached the bar. "Did a guy named James ever play here?" The bartender looked up. "You're his daughter?" Her breath caught. "How did you know?" He smiled. "You've got his hands, long fingers, heavy wrists." She didn't know what to say. He pulled a drawer from under the bar, rummaged, then handed her a folded piece of paper. "I was supposed to give this to you if you ever showed up." Her hands trembled as she opened it. It was page 3. The missing sheet. Her father's handwriting and hers together on the lines, but at the bottom, scrawled in new ink, "Let her find the ending on her own." Amara returned to the inn with the page clutched tight. She found James in the piano room, didn't speak, just handed it to him. He stared at the note, then back at her. "You went to Louie's." She nodded. James blinked back something wet in his eyes. She must have kept it. "Who?" He smiled sadly. "The woman in the photo. Her name was Nadine. She found the tape after I left it. Said it didn't belong to me anymore." Amara felt the air shift. "You loved her." "Yes," he said quietly, "but not the way I loved your mother. That was different. That was terrifying." They sat together in the quiet. And then Amara took out a pen, flipped to the last empty staff line, and wrote 4 notes. Soft, dissonant, brave. The beginning of the end. The day after retrieving page 3, Amara couldn't stop hearing the melody in her head. It looped as she walked, as she poured coffee, as she brushed her teeth. The final 4 notes she had written echoed in her mind like a whisper trying to speak louder. They didn't belong at the end. They were a beginning. James watched her play them again at the piano, slower this time. He didn't interrupt, just sat across from her, hands folded, the way one listens to thunder and knows a storm is coming. "You heard something else," he said. Amara nodded. "I think there's more." "Then find it." Later that afternoon, her mother surprised them both. "I'm coming with you," she said, "to Louie's. I want to see the place that swallowed you." James didn't flinch. They drove in silence, 3 shadows in a borrowed car. Louie's place hadn't changed, but it felt smaller. Inside, Nadine was waiting. She looked older than the photograph, hair now silver, but her eyes were sharp, knowing. She leaned on the bar like it was part of her spine. "You look just like your mother," Nadine said to Amara. Amara blinked. "You knew her?" Nadine laughed once, bitter and brief. "Only from the songs he wrote." James cleared his throat. Nadine, I know who she is, Nadine's voice dropped, and I know who you are. Amara's mother stepped forward. Do you hate him? Nadine shrugged. No, I just finally stopped trying to save him. They sat in a back booth, Nadine nursing a drink, James tracing rings of water on the table. He was brilliant when he arrived, Nadine said, eyes distant, but he was already bleeding, just hiding the wound. Amara listened, unsure if this story was meant for her. He played every night like the piano owed him pain, Nadine went on, and I let him. I thought if I held him tight enough, maybe the pieces would fit again. James closed his eyes. But pieces don't fit when you don't know what you're missing. Silence. Then James said, I never told you goodbye. Nadine looked at him for a long moment. No, you didn't. Then she turned to Amara. You should know something. The tape, he left it here, drunk, furious, said he was done writing songs that no one listened to. But when I listened, I knew it wasn't for me. I heard you in it, and I kept it. Amara swallowed. Why send it to me after so long? Nadine smiled, sadly. Because I thought he'd never be brave enough to find you, and because you deserve to know how beautiful you sound in his hands. On the drive back, no one spoke. But something had shifted. Not healed, not yet, just moved. That night, Amara sat at the piano again. The lights were off, only the glow from the hallway spilling across the keys. She played the 4 notes, then listened. Not to memory, or fear, or silence, but to possibility. She played them again and let her fingers wander, searching. They landed on a chord she didn't expect. James, watching from the doorway, said softly, That's it. Amara kept playing. The new section unfolded, shaky, fragile, uncertain, but it lived. Each note carried weight. Each rest held breath. And when she finally stopped, her hands were trembling. I didn't think I could do that, she whispered. James crossed the room, gently closed the lid over the keys. You didn't do it alone. The next morning, Amara woke to find a letter on her pillow. To Amara, the song is almost yours now, but if you want to truly finish it, there's one more place you need to go. Your grandfather's house. Dad. The road to Glenmere was long and forgettable. Endless rows of flat land blurred past the car windows like time unwinding. The air grew stiller the farther they drove, and with each passing mile, Amara felt the weight of the letter deepen. Her grandfather's house was on a dead-end street. It looked abandoned. Chipped paint, boarded windows, a crooked mailbox. The lawn was a patchwork of weeds and dry earth. This is it? She asked. James stared at the house like it had insulted him. He nodded once. It hasn't changed. Inside, it smelled like dust and rotting wood. The front door creaked. The floor groaned. The walls wore stains like war wounds. James didn't hesitate. He walked straight to the back room. This used to be the music room, he said. Amara followed. The room was mostly empty now. Just a broken stool, a faded rug, and a piano pushed into the corner like it was being punished. She stepped closer. The piano was warped with age. One key was missing, another was jammed. But she could still see the initials carved into the wood, J.C. Just below them, newer ones, half-scratched, unfinished, A.C. You came here after I was born? Amara said. James nodded. Only once. Your mother didn't know. I sat here for hours and couldn't play a single note. Why? He ran his hand across the top of the piano. Because everything I learned here came with a price. They found the old journals in a rusted tin under the floorboard. James recognized his father's handwriting instantly, tight, mechanical, and cold. Most of it was about music, but the music was always tied to obedience, discipline, failure. The boy lacks fire. He mimics but doesn't feel. He will play what I teach, or he will not play at all. Amara read the words in silence. Her throat tightened. "No wonder you left," she said. James didn't respond. Instead, he picked up one of the pages, tore it, and threw it into the empty fireplace. It curled and blackened like it had waited years to burn. That night, they stayed in a motel nearby. Amara couldn't sleep. She kept thinking of the piano in the corner, the initials, the silence in her father's voice when he spoke of this place. So she got up, took out her notebook, and began rewriting the final bars of the piece. But this time, she didn't copy. She changed them. Softened the resolve. Let a dissonant chord stay unresolved. Added a breath before the last measure. And just before the page ended, she scribbled something her grandfather would have hated. "Play this like you mean it, or not at all." In the morning, she handed the new sheet to James. He read it, smiled, then said, "Let's go finish this." Back in the old house, the air felt different. James sat at the broken piano, despite its cracked keys. He placed the rewritten sheet in front of him. Amara stood beside him, her hand resting on the corner of the frame. He played, slowly, imperfectly, but the music carried weight it had never carried before. It wasn't about technique anymore. It was about release. As the last note hung in the dusty room, Amara whispered, "Now it's finished." James looked up at her. "No," he said, "now it's ours." Back in the city, the apartment felt smaller. Or maybe they had grown larger. James spent most of his time in the corner room, tuning the old upright piano. Each note he adjusted seemed like a piece of himself being set back into place. Amara watched him from the doorway, notebook in hand, uncertain. The song was done. The silence afterward was not. At school, everything had changed, and nothing had. Amara sat in class while kids joked around her, teachers taught, clocks ticked. But inside her chest was a rhythm too heavy to ignore. At lunch, she opened her notebook, rereading the final version of the song. The pencil marks were lighter now. No more corrections. No more second guesses. Just music. Just truth. That evening, Mrs. Langford, the music teacher, called. "I've heard things," she said, her voice warm with curiosity, "about a piece, about a girl. Is it true?" Amara hesitated. "Maybe." "There's a citywide youth showcase next month. No rules, no categories, just stories told through sound. I think you should enter." Amara stared at the phone. Her heart beat once, loud, then again. When she told James, he didn't speak at first, just looked at her, then at the piano. "You want to perform it?" he asked. Amara shrugged. "Part of me does." "And the other part?" "Wants to keep it just ours." He nodded. "I know that feeling." That night, she couldn't sleep. She dreamt of a room filled with echoes. In the dream, she sat at the piano on stage, lights blinding her eyes, hands trembling. But when she touched the keys, the notes didn't come from her fingers. They came from every letter she had ever sent into the sky. In the morning, she gave James her answer. "I want people to hear it. I want someone like me, sitting in some quiet room, wondering if they matter, to know they're not alone." He didn't smile, but his eyes shimmered. "Then let's show them." Over the next few weeks, they rehearsed. Not perfectly. Sometimes they fought over tempo, phrasing, who would play which parts. Sometimes they laughed, especially when the piano threw tantrums of its own. But through it all, the music deepened, became real, became theirs. The night before the showcase, Amara stood by the window. She hadn't sent a letter in weeks. Instead, she held them all inside her now. "Do you think Mom would come?" she asked James. He paused. "She said no when I asked." "Oh." "But she also said, 'Not yet. That's not a forever.'" Amara nodded. And for the first time, she didn't feel hollow. She felt ready. The city theater wasn't grand. Its walls were chipped, the curtains slightly frayed, and the lighting older than most of the performers. But to Amara, it looked like a cathedral. Outside, the sky was a deep navy, almost purple, a perfect backdrop for a night that felt like a prayer. Backstage, kids practiced scales, tuned violins, whispered nervously into their sleeves. Amara sat alone, hands folded in her lap, sheet music resting on her knees. She wore a simple black dress and worn-out sneakers. Her hair was braided back, tight and clean. Her name wasn't printed in the program, just the title, For the Ones Who Wait. James waited in the wings, not as a performer, but as a shadow, steady and calm. He didn't need to say anything. His presence was the cord that held her together. A volunteer stepped forward. "You're up in 5. Amara stood. Her knees felt weak. Her fingers tingled, but her spine straightened. She took a breath, then another, then walked out onto the stage. The lights hit her first, then the hush. The audience blurred into 1,000 silhouettes, their faces lost in darkness. All that remained was the piano, center stage, waiting. She walked to it, sat, placed her hands above the keys, closed her eyes, and began. The first notes were slow, hesitant, like memories returning after being forgotten. The melody was simple at first, but underneath there was a subtle tension, like a question half swallowed. Then came the shift, the heartbeat rhythm she had added, pulsing through the bass. The room leaned in. She played the middle section slower than usual, letting the dissonance hang longer, letting silence answer silence. Then came the final movement, a crescendo built not with speed, but with depth. Every note a letter, every pause a space where an answer might have been. And just before the end, just before the last chord, she paused, looked up, and smiled. Then pressed the final note. It rang like breath held too long. The silence afterward wasn't empty. It was sacred. It was heard. Then applause, not loud at first, but building, row by row, a wave of hands crashing in gratitude. Amara stood, bowed, and for the first time in her life, didn't feel small. Backstage, James waited with open arms. She ran into them. "You did it," he said. "No," she whispered. "We did." They were halfway down the aisle when a voice called out from behind. "Amara!" She turned and froze. Her mother stood there, tired, tear-streaked, holding a folded piece of paper in her hand. "I read every one," she said softly. The theater vanished, time paused, and Amara stepped forward into the arms of a past that was finally ready to heal. The theater had emptied. The applause had faded into memory. Amara stood in the lobby with her mother, James hovering a few steps behind. They said nothing at first. The folded piece of paper still trembled in her mother's hand. "I never replied," her mother said, "but I read every letter, even the ones you hid under your bed." Amara looked down. Her voice came out quiet, almost brittle. "I wasn't writing for a reply. I was writing so I wouldn't disappear." Her mother nodded, and I was silent so I wouldn't break. They sat on a bench outside the theater. The street lights cast long shadows across the sidewalk. James stayed back, giving them space. Amara glanced at the paper in her mother's hand. "What is that?" she asked. Her mother hesitated, then unfolded it. It wasn't a letter. It was music. Amara recognized the opening chords, her own, but rewritten, reimagined, with new harmonies laced into the melody, softer, warmer, like a question turned into an answer. "I used to play," her mother said, "before I met your father, before the fights, before the silence. I stopped because I didn't think I had a right to sound beautiful." Amara traced the notes with her finger. "It's yours?" she asked. Her mother shook her head. "It's ours, just like the rest of the song." That night, back at the apartment, they laid the pages side by side, Amara's version and her mother's. James sat with them, listening, not speaking, letting the women in his life compose without words. Together, they rewrote a new version, not polished, not perfect, but full of shared breath and old scars finally allowed to surface. They called it For the Ones Who Stayed. In the days that followed, things didn't magically fix themselves. Amara still struggled in school. James still carried the weight of years lost. Her mother still left awkward pauses between sentences, still looked unsure when offering affection. But the piano, once silent, now sang every evening. And sometimes they sang with it. One afternoon, Amara found a new envelope tucked between the piano keys. Her name was written in neat, familiar handwriting. Inside was a single sentence. "You've written enough to the sky. Maybe it's time the sky wrote back."